Hey guys, and thanks for checking out my video. Today I want to discuss some strategies that you guys can use as mute when defending the basement on Oregon. The fact of the matter is, unfortunately, the way it works in Siege, solo queuing is so difficult. And so that's exactly what I want to do. Hopefully, if you guys like this video, I'd love to turn it into a series and just continuing to discuss ways that we can get better at solo queuing and discuss strategies that are specific to that, so you can rank up without playing in a 5-stack. Again, this is going to be mute strategies on the basement. They're not quite advanced strategies, they're not pro league strategies, but they're not beginner strategies, so I would probably call them intermediate to moderate level strategies. They're going to take some practice really defining, I guess would be the right phrase. For a lot of you guys, you probably know some of these parts individually, but I just want to put them all together in one overall video of what you should be doing and how you should be defending. It's going to be based off of basically assuming that your teammates aren't making callouts and aren't getting kills. And it's also going to be a strategy really based around intel and being able to frag on your own. Both managing, kind of being able to do both of them, which is of course extremely difficult, but I think there's a way to do it in the right time and place. I will quit talking, let this clip finish out, and then we'll begin discussing everything that you need to know from loadout, mute placements, reinforcements, and everything else. So the first thing I think we should probably do is discuss loadout. Before the game even begins and the round even starts, you got to get your loadout right. So when we talk about loadout, of course, the first thing we got to break down is your primary weapon and whether or not you're going to play the MP5K or roll with the shoddy. Now, I'm going to talk about this a lot more later on, but for starters, I think that you should lean towards using the MP5K unless you're a more mature player and you trust yourself with the SMG-11. If you don't trust yourself with the SMG-11 or you're, say, a silver or lower, absolutely lean the MP5K. One of the biggest reasons for this being that while Oregon is a pretty small map that leans towards close quarters combat, which tends to help the shotgun out quite a bit, you're going to be covering, at least in this strategy, you're going to be covering meeting hall quite a bit, and which is one of the bigger lines of sight in the map. So go MP5K. As far as your attachments for the MP5K go, I always roll the reflex and flash hider. Some people are tempted to go with the compensator or muzzle brake for the flash hider, but the muzzle brake only reduces recoil for single shot firing, and the odds of you running the single shot pretty rare. As far as the compensator goes, it reduces recoil over time for rapid firing. This is a gun with a 30 magazine clip, and so I don't see that you're probably going to be using that too much. I think most of the time you're going to be firing between 5 and 10 rounds, which comes into this range of the flash hider being the most useful attachment. And with this gun, reduced recoil is going to be extremely helpful. Lastly, the suppressor, it's nice, but it reduces your damage down to 25, and I don't think the noise reduction is enough to take that sort of a damage hit. Again, especially for a gun that does a 800 rate of fire, you're really relying on landing quite a few shots to get those kills. As far as the shotgun goes, if you do roll the shotgun, which you certainly can, I would roll the reflex and do not use a laser sight as your underbarrel. I've talked about this many times in the past. The fact of the matter is you're just telegraphing your position to everyone. I cannot believe how many times I've been clearing out a room and I just see a laser dot right there on the wall, and it's like, thank you, defender. I didn't know that you were there, but I certainly do now. There's almost no reason to run the P22 over the SMG-11. The SMG-11 is far better. But if you are to run that, it would probably be because you do not trust your ability to handle that recoil. It has extreme recoil patterns. Unlike Ellis Scorpion, it's a very vertical recoil. It doesn't have issues firing left to right and all over the place, but again, it is very steep recoil. As far as the attachments for that, of course, you're going to run a vertical grip and a reflex sight, as well as the flash hider. Pretty straightforward and fits with everything that I've mentioned already. Finally, as far as your gadget goes, you got the nitro cell and the bulletproof camera. I would absolutely run the nitro cell over the bulletproof camera, unless, again, you're coming in as somebody watching this video, you're a bronze or a copper or whatever, in which case, too many bronze, coppers, and low silvers die trying to throw nitro cells. I see it all the time. Put yourself in a vulnerable position and get shot and killed before you even get the nitro cell off, in which case, play it smart and go for intel. In that case, of course, the bulletproof camera is what you're looking for. But now that we've gone a quick loadout update, let's get into the strategies and the placements. Alright guys, so as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of you know exactly where these mute jammers are going, but they're really crucial to this strategy, which I think is going to get a little bit more diverse later on, or I guess more specific, I think would be the word, more intentional. I think that's really important in Siege, knowing exactly what you want to do and how you want to do it. Of course, those are going to go right there to stop droning upstairs in meeting, which is absolutely the epitome and most important part of this strat, and that's where we're going to spend almost the entire time of the map. Now, while many people are going to put their drone, or excuse me, their mute right here, we're not going to. And the reason for that being, it's not actually all that useful when you consider the fact that the hatch can still be opened even with a mute there, as well as, you know, a Thatcher or a Twitch or an IQ can take that out pretty easily. So one of the other places I'd like to put one is right here. We're going to put one here. Now, first thing being, I know that this is going to get destroyed. This is not going to be here the entire round. If the attacking team, which they should, at least send one person pushing this way, if the attacking team sends anyone this way, eventually this is going to get taken out. It's not meant to be there the entire round, but we're going to slow down the attackers and deny early round intel, forcing them to take the time to take this thing out. And then, of course, once they do, we'll have bought some time, and that will be, I think, a pretty successful part of what we're doing. And then finally, the last one I'd like to put is right here. As I've already mentioned a million times, we're going to be in meeting, and so being able to put this down here and stop them from droning in is huge. We have now covered this doorway, as well as both over here, so from these meeting entrances. So now we've really stopped every way in, and except for, of course, right there. This is extremely important. In fact, I'd probably use the word crucial to this strategy as a whole. Like I've said a million times, we're going to be meeting basically the entire round for the sake that we're going to cover sort of rotation from both objectives, and we're going to stop them from being able to get these hatches over here. And we'll talk about reinforcements in a little bit, but I don't think you should always reinforce those for a few reasons. One of them being they can still open the hatches anyway, so someone absolutely needs to be up here, and we can absolutely pick off a lot of people. But this, quite honestly, is the most important part of the map. And if you are not holding down meeting hall, there's a very good chance you're going to lose. Furthermore, if you're solo queuing, it's very important to hold this because control is a big problem. You cannot trust the other 4 players on your team to hold control. There's a very good chance that they're going to be able to go and take objective A. And the only way to get objective A is by rotating around and getting back on top of these stairs here, and pushing around and flanking them. And the only way to flank on this map is through meeting hall. It's really interesting when you look at it, because you either got to run all the way outside and you're going to get your stupid butt killed, or you got to push through meeting hall. So this is absolutely the most important part to control. Another reason for that being, if they push backside, if they want to push construction and you're going to flank that, it's going to happen through these tower stairs, meeting hall stairs, through this backside. So again, extremely important. Now let's break down where these reinforcements should go and some other strategies. First reinforcement that I'm going to put is actually right here. And the reason for this is how much space it covers on this map. It actually is going to really help stop attackers from being able to push you. So if we actually hold this angle here, and you can see about there, everywhere from here on over, they cannot get without pushing into the room. They cannot see you. So that's huge. You reinforce this, they can't open this wall. If they're able to open this wall, they get a much easier sight into this entire area. But by reinforcing it, we allow ourselves quite a bit of security in at least about a third of the room. So I think that's absolutely huge and really important. The second one doesn't matter as much, but I'm going to lean towards probably using it over on one of these hatches.
Bomb locations are secure.
All right, so talked a second ago about which hatch to reinforce, and I mentioned that this was the one to reinforce. There are a few reasons for that. The first being there are only 2 ways to move between objectives, and one of them is this hallway, and then of course the other one is going to be if you come over here and open up one of these soft walls. Teams almost always do, so that's pretty much a given. But one rotation is not enough. It's simply not. You need that second rotation to be effective. There's a real term in Siege that I think, especially if you're at Gold or Plat, they talk about herding defenders into locations that you want them. If you can open this hatch and hold this angle on this hallway, you can absolutely herd them into the places that you want to be. Especially if there is a mirror there, this is a really great spot to open up. Over here, however, is not such a powerful, I guess, way of attacking, right? So over there we've got that hallway, and over here you don't really have that much. What essentially you're able to see is this little room and the beginning of bomb site B. The problem with that being you can't see anywhere really useful. Defenders are almost never right there where that ping is. I mean, there's really no reason to sit there as a defender. And it's a pretty typical spot for attackers to push through anyways from down. I mean, if you hop through this site, you're just pushing through this doorway anyways, like the defenders expected you to as an attacker. So it really doesn't do that much good. Again, you hop down, you just become like every other attacker. So for me, this is the one that you absolutely need to be reinforcing. That's the one that I would get along with that wall that I showed you a second ago. Now, if you're nervous in here, if you feel like you've got it set and then all of a sudden they begin pushing you pretty hard, the shotgun is nice for its utility, and there's a nice spot. You can push up here into attic, and there's actually some pretty solid angles that you can get on people trying to push you. And you're going to open this up right here. There we go. And then you can come over here and hold an angle on this doorway. It's a pretty solid angle, actually. Not the best angle in the world, but it's pretty safe. I hate pushing people and trying to shoot out these angles. Even if they know you're there, you get a little bit of protection from this, and you get that advantage being the one behind it, whereas they're going to have to peek on that doorway. You also, of course, get the advantage of being able to see their feet oftentimes before they're able to see you. I do not open hatch up. I'll show you now what it looks like when you open it up, because it's simply far too visible. As an attacker, if you come over here and you're looking, there's a lot to see there. It is very obvious. Now, I opened up this a little bit too big. You saw that it was 2 shots that it took. I could have actually done it in 1, but again, you look at that. That is way less visible. Even if you notice the wood removed, you can't see anyone there. You can't see past it. And yet it's crazy because they can shoot your feet and kill you before you've even pushed up enough to point out that there's someone there. So you do get this nice, safe fallback, which I really like. I really appreciate that ability to say, okay, things go to heck. Where am I going to go? And then, of course, you can rotate either way. If you went with a shotgun or you still have your C4, you can simply open the wall up and then push through. I think there's a lot to this, and for me, the basic overall strategy and why I'm breaking this down, why this is my strategy, why we're holding this is, again, the mobility. If you're solo queuing, you just can't trust your teammates. You have no idea what they're going to do, and you almost have to assume the worst. This way, you've got solid coverage. You're able to rotate between the stairs up front, which is the #1 site to push on this map. If they get this hatch open, especially, you absolutely need to be ready to push back through here and flank, especially if a plant gets down. But then, of course, you are also 1 or 2 steps away. You are right nearby Big Tower. And if they push backside, if they're pushing from construction, you can flank them this way as well. For me, it is seemingly the most effective way to solo queue this. And again, don't forget the mute jammers that we put earlier in this corner covering those 2 areas and this backside. There's not a lot of information that they're going to be able to get. So I think this is probably the most effective strategy that I've been able to use for mute. I think there's a lot of little ways that this strategy can be improved. Don't get me wrong, I'm far from perfect, and I'd in fact love to hear from you guys. Leave your comments down below about what tweaks and adjustments you guys would make to this strategy. But there's so much that can be done, and so many small little ways that we can improve on this. I absolutely love it, and again, it all comes down to solo queuing and having to make up for bad teammates, which unfortunately is just a given at this point in the Siege community. Alright guys, I wanted to show a few more angles. These are nothing big, but there are a few things worth noting, I would say. The first one being, if you get that in the right angle, you can actually watch this door as they push from construction and get easy kills. Because I tell you what, all the way up here is not a place that they're going to be looking too much. Though I wouldn't get too obsessed with this spot, as again, you've got a lot to handle in this location, and you're going to be very busy worrying about quite a few things. The other one being is if you are somehow forced all the way up here into Watchtower, which I'm just going to come out and say right now, probably the last place you want to go, but if they're clearing roamers and you end up here, there's a few things that you can do, and this is one of them. If you're all the way up here, rather than watching like this, it's just not great angles, and it's very easy to see. You can do that right there. Open up that little spot, and you can see them the very second they start to go up those stairs. So it gives you just a little bit more to look at. Now, when you come down here, you'll see it's not that visible. It's really not. Granted, if you're playing a diamond, right, they're going to see it. They just are. But if you're playing against a gold or a silver, they're not going to see it until you've had a chance to shoot at them. And of course, that's going to give you a big advantage. And then, of course, if you are not running the M90A1, you can do this. There's another thing that you can do, which is just opening this up and then getting an angle on that door from all the way over there. You can get these really far angles, which again, if you're attacking and you've got a push meeting hall, there's a lot to look at. This is a very chaotic room, and peeking all the way across there on stairs is not the first thing you're going to do. And even if you do happen to do it, that's a hard shot to make. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. Furthermore, they don't know. Go back to the mute jammers that we placed earlier. They don't know where you are. They can't assume that you're not in here. They can't assume which corner it is that you're in here. Your mute jammers have stopped them from gaining intel. So that is, of course, also really important to remember that intel is the biggest part of this objective. The fact of the matter is, you're kind of screwed in here if they know where you are. It's very difficult. They can push you with 1, 2, or even 3 people, and you are dead. But you're not an anchor, so it's okay to die. You just need to buy time, maybe get 1 frag, and destroy equipment, waste their time and their utility. And if they don't know you're there, if your mute jammers are successful, that's going to help you a lot. Keep in mind, they can't frag these out, they can't IQ these. There's nothing they can do to destroy them except what? Come all the way down here into objective and shoot these things off of the boxes. At that point, they're not worried about mute jammers, guys. They're planting, or they've already won the game. So yeah, this is one of the strongest, and it is an old strategy. Don't get me wrong, this has been around for quite a while, but it is still a very powerful strategy that unless you're playing against streamers, pro league players, diamonds, champion level players, it's going to be very, very effective, and you're going to be able to have a lot of fun stopping the enemy team, refragging, countering, and just plenty of other things. It is one of the most mobile spots on the map to anchor down in.